Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Drive Pink Dialogue. Before I say anything else, Saur, my beautiful, lovely, gracious co-host, just know this is episode number 50 of the podcast. I know that we've done a lot of pregame shows, and we did a postgame show and some YouTube only content. So we've done more than 50 shows together. But this for the podcast is episode number 50. How are you feeling tonight? My man, how's it going?
It feels like we've been doing this for a while, but it also feels like we started doing this yesterday. And yeah, we should have some confetti on the screen because it's celebration time, isn't it? 50 podcasts. Well done, man. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk into Miami and everything MLS and football with you. And long may this continue. And thank you so much to the listeners for tuning in and helping us grow. And it's a great part of my day, and I always look forward to these conversations. So it's been great.
Yeah, same. It's so much fun to do this, honestly, and you guys in the chat make it so much more fun, and in the comments. And Saur, I appreciate you because when we first had this idea, I wasn't sure what it was going to be like. I thought we might get too nervous to be on camera. All those little things that you get nervous about and you're unsure about. But it's been a blast. It's been so much fun. Last night we did a post-game reaction on YouTube with the people in the chat, and it was possibly my most fun moment of like the last 3 months because I was just amped up after the game, and then to get on and just talk with everyone about it right away was so much fun. This episode is our post-game recap from last night's game against the Chicago Fire. Inter Miami does win another 2-1 victory. We've now played 7 games since Lionel Messi left. We've won 6 of them, and 5 of them have come by a 2-1 scoreline. It's a good time to be an Inter Miami fan. We are back at the top of the table. I know we got there on Wednesday, but now we have extended our lead. A loss from Columbus, a loss from Cincinnati extends our lead to 5 over the Cincinnati FC, 10 over Columbus. I think the next closest team is the LA Galaxy, and LAFC are actually now the real competitors, but we have a game in hand on the Galaxy. It's a good time, man. We get a month break, so we get to enjoy being at the top of the table for quite some time. It's not like we have to worry about losing that on Wednesday night. We don't have to scoreboard watch for other teams on Wednesday night. We can just enjoy where we're at in the MLS. And I have another fun stat, but before I do, how excited are you to just enjoy a month of being the best team in MLS?
I feel like it's always been a case of, yes, we're almost there. We're 85% there. Us as Inter Miami fans know we're the best team in the league, but there's always been doubts about how this team performs without Messi, whether we can sustain it and be consistent over a run of games. And over the last couple of months, we started to really come into good form and show the league that, yes, this Inter Miami team, even without Messi, is very dangerous. And once Messi comes back, we might just be unstoppable. But it feels really good to go on this nice run of wins. And we've separated ourselves a little bit from the crowd, which has happened not due to us winning all the games, but the other teams losing a couple as well. And we have 9 more games left after this. And once Messi comes back, this is going to be a long, nice run, and I'm expecting us to go on even a better tear of wins one after the other. So we'll see how that plays out, and it feels like it's in our hands to now win the Supporters' Shield. Of course, things can change. This is the MLS. We may lose to another St. Louis or Atlanta from time to time, but for now, let's just enjoy it. And Leagues Cup is coming, and that should be another run of good games, and hopefully we can go far and win that as well.
This is the first time all season that Inter Miami is the only team that controls their destiny to the Supporters' Shield. No other team in MLS can just win all their games and win out. And that only became true last night because of Columbus and Cincinnati. If they had beaten Miami, it would have been a 6-point swing. And so they could have also controlled their destiny by winning out. Inter Miami now the only team that can do that. I saw some people tweet out last night that if any team is going to catch up to Inter Miami is going to have to lose at least 2 games. Well, they're acting as if that is not necessarily a guarantee. If Inter Miami wins 7 of their last 9 games, just for the record, they'll break the all-time points record. They're currently on 53 points with 9 games to go. The all-time record is 73. So 20 points to tie it, 21 points. There you go. To break the all-time MLS record. And considering our form, considering we're going to get Diego Gomez back, it sounds like we're going to get Kramaski back. We're going to bring in David Martinez. We're going to bring in another big piece this summer in all likelihood, as either a U22 DP or a full-on senior DP. And we're going to get the best player of all time back. It feels like it's there for us. Not just the supporter shield, but the all-time record. And then you go into the playoffs, all home field advantage throughout the playoffs, and you feel great about your chance of going on and winning the MLS Cup. You secure CONCACAF Champions Cup. Oh, and by the way, we have this tournament coming up next week that Inter Miami's going into with great form. And I don't know, let's just go get 3 trophies. That could be fun.
We're the holders of that tournament, so we are the current challengers. We are the current champions, sorry, and we need to retain that, obviously. But we spoke a lot about the importance of the run of 7 games that we had without Lionel Messi, and sometimes when we were talking about it, it felt like maybe we're over-exaggerating it, and if we lose, it's not the end of the world. We can still potentially be competitive once Messi comes back. But psychologically speaking, what these run of games has done for this team is so important and so crucial going into this next stretch of really important Leagues Cup games, but also the MLS games that are coming forth. And I'm sure it's on the mind of all the players to go out and break that record. We want to, hold that historical record, and potentially a record that might not be broken anytime soon either. So 7 out of 9 games, you say. I say we go win all 9 out of 9. And I say we go win all the games in the Leagues Cup to the point that we don't lose a single one before the playoffs. Let's see how that goes.
I would be happy to just win every game from here until January. I mean, that would make me a happy camper. This isn't even what I wanted to do, but just to put it out there. Our last 9 games of the regular season are against Cincinnati, who is going to be a tough game, but that's at home. We're going to play the Columbus Crew on the road. So those are the 2 really tough games. We also have to play NYCFC at Yankee Stadium in the Mickey Mouse Field. Not a super easy game. So there's 3 tough games, but the rest of them, the Chicago Fire on the road, who we just beat up pretty good. The Philadelphia Union, who are awful right now. Atlanta United, who are awful right now. Charlotte at home, who we just beat, and we'll have home field advantage. That's late in the season. And then what I think really sets up well is the last 2 games of the year are Toronto and the New England Revolution, 2 eminently beatable teams. And so if we go into the last 2 games of the season with the lead, we will feel really good about getting 6 points from those last 2. And I think it'll be really easy. Not to get ahead of ourselves. Should we talk about this game, or should we just keep gushing about how good this team is?
I don't want to jinx us, so let's talk about this game, and let's talk about the past rather than what's going to happen in the future, because that's always better.
Okay, well, let's get into the lineup from last night. It was what we both expected. Campana takes the seat for Suárez, who's back and healthy. Not healthy. He came back from Copa America, but he played his first full 90 since he left for the Copa America. Sergio Busquets steps back in after a suspension from the red card. Kristoff comes out with an injury, so an easy swap. And then Ian Frey comes out for Chelo Wigan because we're not going to get Ian Frey multiple games in a row, at least not yet, at least not for 90 minutes in each game. This was the right lineup. We both thought this was going to be the lineup. Tata put it out. It was sort of exactly what we thought was going to happen. The one thing I did notice is that we didn't try and press super high up the field consistently like we did with Leo Campana in the game over the last couple of weeks. It was a change of strategy, but not one that I think hurt us. And I just want to applaud Tata and the coaching staff and the players for realizing there was an integral part of what we were doing taken out and replaced with something that's better but different. And you have to adjust to that. And I think they did a really good job of that. Anything about the lineup before we sort of recap what happened in this game?
No, I think there were a couple of decisions that we spoke about, with Ian Frey obviously being replaced by Chelo Wigan. We knew that was going to happen. Wigan seems to be the preferred right back option, and I do think Tata Martino sees him as the starting right back, even though we both agree that Ian Frey is better in that position, but I think it's just a virtue of Cello being a recognized right back and then Ian Frey being technically a centre back. And the midfield combination in the last game against Toronto, it was a little bit wanting. Rojas was slightly invisible. I would say actually a lot more invisible. And then it just seems like the rest of the players picked themselves out. Robert Taylor coming in was a good shout because Gomez is now out. So fairly self-explanatory when it comes to picking the lineup.
Okay, well, it's been about 24 hours, so let's kind of recap the game so that we can all remember what happened. And it started really early and really quickly for Inter Miami. An incredible long ball diagonal for Toto Aviles in the 6th minute sets up Robert Taylor, who takes a touch or two, works his way around the defender, gets himself into an excellent spot, and then finds Matías Rojas inside the 18-yard box. And Rojas just sort of puts it in the opposite corner for an early, easy, quick goal that I think really set the tone for Inter Miami. They go up 1-0 after 6 minutes. Couldn't ask for a better start, right?
Not at all. And there was one thing that I noticed immediately from the start of this game, that we were playing a lot quicker in terms of our passing and the way we were moving the ball around. Two-touch, very quick, getting the ball into the right players at the right time. And it just felt like we knew there was a sense of urgency to try and get the first goal. Sometimes Inter Miami can take a lot of time in building up from the back. They rest on the ball a little bit too much, and we play a lot of possession-based football, so it just feels like we're controlling possession a lot more. This time around, it felt like we were a lot quicker in the way we were moving the ball. And who knew Aviles had that in his locker, that crossfield ball? That was very Gressel-esque and inch perfect as well. Huge credit to Robert Taylor for his first touch, which was perfect, set him up perfectly to try and then take on his defender. He gets around, puts the ball perfectly in Matías Rojas's path, makes the right decision there. And then Rojas, not an entirely easy finish, but we've spoken about how good of a left foot he has. He was in the right spot there and made himself available. Perfect, inch perfect finish. Overall, great team goal. One of the better goals we scored in this last 7-game run.
And I think it was an example of what happened consistently in this first half, where we had tremendous team play that was getting the ball into the final third and into dangerous positions. But ultimately, Inter Miami, other than that goal, wasn't able to create a ton of clear-cut opportunities. And this was something I was struck by when I was rewatching today, was that we were doing a really good job to get the ball in and around the 18-yard box, but we actually didn't set ourselves up a ton to finish opportunities. There were a couple notable ones. Matías Rojas had a free kick in the 16th minute just outside the box that hit off Robert Taylor. Would have been really interesting. I'm not sure that they had great communication there, because I don't know why Robert Taylor would be there if Matías Rojas was going to shoot that ball.
And his reaction afterwards said that, you weren't supposed to hit it at me.
31st minute, that's when there's a prime opportunity that goes towards Julian Gressel. Great ball to set that, great entire play to set that opportunity up. Gressel kind of just whiffs on it, wails it far off target. 37th minute, Robert Taylor gets an opportunity and it's saved. And then in the 3rd minute of stoppage time, Suárez gets an opportunity right at the edge of the 18-yard box, turns and fires, but it's right at Chris Brady. If that ball's to either side of Brady, it would have been a goal, but ultimately right in his stomach. I thought we dominated. I really thought we dominated both on the first watch and then watching it back. I thought Inter Miami was clearly in control of this game, playing how they wanted to play, set up perfectly to exploit the team, but to exploit Chicago. But ultimately, I do think there was some breakdowns in the 18-yard box that could have led to, I just mentioned 4 or 5 opportunities, but it could have led to like 9 or 10 opportunities. There was a number of other occasions where Inter Miami played really beautiful soccer to create a potential opportunity, but then we weren't able to turn it into a half chance or a chance. Something to keep in mind as we move on through this podcast. But ultimately, it was our inability to score the second goal that turned this game over in the second half. We were up 1-0 at halftime, and going into the second half, it felt like a comfortable game. We were comfortable, but ultimately it wasn't quite enough for us to put the game away. And all of a sudden, Chicago gets back into it. But before that happens, just sort of along this line of we're just creating opportunities, but we're not creating clear-cut opportunities. 49th minute, Rojas slips in Luis Suárez, but Suárez doesn't put a great shot on goal, and Chris Brady makes the save. Anything on that play that you wanted to mention?
Yeah, I that play actually stood out for me for how this Inter Miami midfield should really play, because that play started with Yannick Bright winning the ball for the 1000th millionth time in that particular game, high up. Passes it straight, like doesn't waste any seconds on the ball, passes it straight into Matías Rojas, who turns, sees space ahead of him, and just drills it straight through to Luis Suarez. I thought that was a really good ball. I would bet my house on it 9 out of 10 times for Suarez to actually score that in the back of the net. He was 1-on-1 with the keeper. Very poor finish, but I thought that was a very well constructed goal, and how this midfield needs to work, because Matías Rojas needs to stay in that final third / number 8 position, so that when the ball comes into him, he's immediately in a position to then drive it out into the strikers or the attackers and the forwards. Last game against Toronto, that was not what was happening. I thought Matías Rojas played slightly deeper, was dictating the play from deep. Here, he trusted some of his teammates to get the ball into him, and he had a few good balls in and around. I know he wasn't extraordinary by any means, but he had some good passes in and around that area that sort of created those half chances that you've spoken about. So I really liked that play for what it was, and it was a shame that we weren't able to get a goal there.
Yeah, and it was, again, one of these moments where it felt like, man, if we were just a little bit better, we could have put the game away there, but we just were a little bit off, and it was you felt like if we couldn't convert on one of these, it might come back to bite us. There was another one in the 55th minute where Cello Weekend gets an opportunity right at the edge of the box and just doesn't put the ball on target. But just a few minutes after that, I think it was the 58th minute, Chicago makes their substitutions. They made 2 subs, but the big one was Chris Mueller, came into the midfield. This is a guy that I've never liked playing against because he's just a pesky pest in the midfield. And he was that again today. I thought he was transformational for what Chicago was trying to do. And all of a sudden, from that 60th minute on, Chicago is coming at the game in a way they hadn't been to that point. The first moment that I thought was like, okay, this is when we have to realize it's changed. The state of the game has changed. 64th minute, Hugo Kuipers, there's a cross in. He gets a head to the ball, puts it just above the net. In the 67th minute, Drake Callender has to make a save on a Brian Gutierrez shot. That's the shot that he saves and then kind of bounces off his chest and he has to kick away. A fun play to watch, but it's just a sign that things are turning, the momentum's changing, and they were starting to create opportunities and build some confidence. And then finally, they get the goal in the 73rd minute. Rafael Sichos, the center back, takes a step up, realizes he has an opportunity, fires low, near post, in between the legs of Cello Weekend. Callender saw it late, can't get there. And all of a sudden, this thing that we had been a little worried about for the last 15, 20 minutes, a comeback happened, and Inter Miami is now down, or not down, but equalized 1-1, and bad times are here, right?
Yeah, the title of this podcast is Uncomfortably Comfortable. Is that what it is? I think something similar along those lines, right? And that perfectly describes how I was feeling. It felt like Inter Miami was on top. We had our boot on the necks of this Chicago Fire team. And as you mentioned, every time we were creating something, playing some really beautiful football, getting into the right spots, the final pass was just a little bit lacking. Someone took a bad touch in that final third. The ball didn't arrive at the right time or was intercepted by a Chicago Fire player. And it just seemed like things were sort of breaking down in that last moment, where if that had gone through, it would have been a perfect chance for us to create another very good opportunity. We were playing very exciting football for a lot of this game. And when you don't finish some of your chances, what happens psychologically is it drains you out. And I thought Inter Miami took their gas off. Chicago's subs came on, and then they just started building the pressure up. And Inter Miami just started backing off a little bit more and more and more. And we allowed Chicago to play a little bit. They got on the ball quite a lot more than they were doing it previously. playing through the midfield, putting in some dangerous crosses. Calendar had a couple of saves that I thought he should have done better with, of hold on to it. But the closer they got, the more belief they got, and the more Inter Miami retreated back. I thought if we'd continued to keep the pressure, we would have definitely got another goal. And then their opportunity came. David Ruiz should have done better in that chance. I thought he was very weak in the way he let his player go. Maybe Wigan could have been a little closer as well to close down that shot, but good shot. Calendar maybe could have done better. I'm not sure, but at this point, we're just being critical. Chicago came back into this game firing.
Yeah, and ultimately, if you give up a goal from outside the box to a center back, sometimes you just have to chalk it up as things happen. And really, the frustration there, for me at least, was not that we gave up a goal. It's that we should be up 3-0 at this point so that goal doesn't matter. It didn't matter, though, because about 45 seconds later, technically 2 minutes later in the 75th minute, Inter Miami immediately puts the pressure back on. There's a opportunity that's created. It bounces out, but Inter Miami puts it back in. Leo Alfonso heads it towards goal. Chris Brady goes to try and catch it, but as they say, Zichos giveth and Zichos taketh away. He gets in the way of Chris Brady's catch. It bounces back out to Jordi Alba, who casually, calmly, and with aplomb just pops it into the net. Inter Miami goes up 2-1 about 90 seconds after they gave up the lead. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, they just need to give up a goal. And then they start trying again. All of a sudden it was easy. Inter Miami 2-1.
Yeah, and I think that's the perfect, that's the epitome of how this Inter Miami team sometimes just needs to wake up a little bit. If we'd sustained that pressure, I have no doubt that we would have capitalized on that and got that 2-0 lead. That would have made this a lot more easier to watch. But you put it very eloquently. The player who scored for Chicago Fire was culpable for this goal. And they say that the team is the most vulnerable when they score a goal. So we capitalized on their lack of precision. And Brady, usually a very, very stout, very solid keeper, makes a little bit of a mistake. And a good finish by Jordi Alba. By all means, it's not an easy finish, especially when there's a wide gaping goal. You could get excited. You're like, oh, I'm going to shoot. And then it just goes out. He just caressed it into the corner as a volley. And that was well done. But my point being, we knew we could put that pressure constantly. And I think after we got that goal, we sustained that pressure and got more and more chances to score. But I don't know why there was a moment in this game where we just lapsed. We just sort of sat back a little bit. Whereas I thought that's possibly the next step that this team needs to take, where 90 minutes is when we can actually put so much pressure. But yeah, damage averted.
Well, I have some thoughts on that, and we will talk about that in the next few minutes. But let's just finish up this game. Inter Miami with the 2-1 lead. Like you said, they did create a few more opportunities. In the 79th minute, there was that Luis Suárez ball where he popped it over the top to Matías Rojas, who made a great run. And then Rojas, I think, kind of caught between trying to do a tricky shot around Chris Brady or just lay it off for Leo Alfonso. Gets caught halfway. Doesn't put it on target because he's trying to lay it off, but he puts it too hard, and Leo Alfonso can't catch up to it. Ultimately, another opportunity wasted. In the 84th minute, we had a free kick, but at this point, both Gressel and Rojas were off the field, and so we didn't have any of our normal free kick takers. Suárez takes it, and it was a pretty nice kick a pretty nice opportunity from Suárez. Brady does, push it over the bar, but not bad from Suárez considering we've never seen him do that. And then in the 87th minute, Busquets puts a ball over the top. Cello makes a beautiful run and catches it and has a one-on-one with Chris Brady. But Cello can't finish. If we learned anything from this game, maybe it's that. Maybe we should have learned this a month ago when he had that opportunity to get the winner late.
Hey, no Cello slander will be accepted on this channel.
I don't know about this channel, but maybe for this podcast, we can let it slide. Okay. And then Drake Calendar did have to make one last save in the 91st minute, but ultimately from us scoring that second goal, there was never a moment where it didn't feel like Inter Miami wasn't going to win this game. Thoughts on the game? Thoughts on the second half? How are you feeling at this moment?
Ecstatic that we actually won the game.
Wait. Hold on. Just an advertisement. After the game last night, for the first time we've ever done this, we went live on YouTube, and you guys can go see our reaction after. So I guess I don't have to ask you how you were feeling in this moment because we can just go back and watch. But overall, about the whole game, what was your mindset, and what concerns or what was really on your mind about good, bad, ugly? Go.
I'm just annoyed that I had to sit through a little bit of a anxiety, anxious, provoking moment in the last 5-10 minutes where we could have made it a lot more easier for ourselves. It just feels like Inter Miami is its own worst enemy in winning games, and we just made it difficult for ourselves when we could have had a very easy night out. But overall, the results. The results across the MLS combined with our win and going back on top and creating that sort of gap between us and Cincinnati and Columbus and the rest was very relieving. And I think we had a fantastic game. We played really well. At times we were a little bit lapsed, but that happens. And overall, no complaints. Lots of positives in this game. More positives than negatives.
Normally we spend some time talking about the other team, but if this was Cincinnati, if this was Columbus, we probably would do that. But this Chicago Fire team, not that good. We talked about in the pregame show. They have a couple okay players, but ultimately nothing special, nothing that concerns me moving forward. I did mention we play them again right after the Leagues Cup. It's either going to be our first or second game after that tournament. But I don't know. Do you want to talk about them? Chris Mueller, I thought, came on and was a spark for them. Kellen Acosta was okay, but Kuipers looks like he could be dangerous if he gets a lot of service. I don't know. Is there anything there you want to talk about?
I will say they were better than I expected them to be. They had, I think, more possession than Inter Miami, which was really surprising, but that has to potentially do with the second half rather than the first half. We can always check the stats. And yes, the first half, we had a lot more possession than them. And then the second half, they had a lot more possession than us. But they were never truly threatening. But when they did have the ball and when we were under pressure, they did create some good opportunities and could have capitalized on that. Overall, a good MLS team. I do think they might actually be able to make the playoffs if they get their act together. But it seems like every time a team loses to Inter Miami, they go off the cliff for a little bit. So I hope that doesn't happen with Chicago, except if you're Columbus, because they've been on an absolute tear until yesterday. But yeah, overall,
Columbus has 1 point from their last 6. So,
oh really?
I think so.
Oh geez, I thought they had done
last weekend
much better.
Too. No, well, they were on a 5 or 6 game win streak.
Yeah. But you're right. This team didn't necessarily have too much analysis that we need to do. It did seem more of an Inter Miami issue when we let them come on to us. But other than that, I'm glad we just were able to deal with Chicago Fire, because if they beat both Cincinnati and Inter Miami, that would be quite embarrassing for the league.
Well, this is the MLS, right? These things happen, and I think that's what makes it so impressive what Inter Miami's done to be able to consistently pull out results. One of the things I want to do on our midweek episode on Wednesday, we'll talk about the Leagues Cup. We'll update any transfer window things that are happening. But hopefully my Ian Frey kid comes so I can hang it loud and proud. But I want to go back and listen to that podcast we did right before the 7-game stretch and talk about what our expectations were, what our predictions were, and kind of revisit what we got right and what we got wrong. I imagine, based on knowing the two of us, that we probably had a nice conversation about Yannick Bright, and I think we're going to be proven right with that one, but we will see. Let's talk about this game. You mentioned that they controlled possession, and by they I mean the Chicago Fire. I have reasons why I think that was the case, but I want to hear your thoughts on how you thought Inter Miami set up, if you thought it was the right strategy, if you thought they did well, if you thought they had the right game plan, or if it was just a talent advantage.
No, I think the game plan was bang on, given how many opportunities we had. I thought the midfield setup was good. We were keeping a fair amount of possession in that first half, and having Sergio Busquets in that back line who can easily make those line-breaking passes to create some space to play out from the back really helped us. I liked the fact that we were keeping hold of the ball. Yannick Bright was... Every time Chicago Fire got the ball, Yannick Bright was there to take it back. And that, I think, helped us keep the ball a lot more. For me, I haven't analyzed this too much because I haven't rewatched the game, but my intuition is that things started to change when the subs happened, and it sort of became a little bit more difficult for us to keep the ball when the subs happened. So we had David Ruiz come in around the 70th minute, I believe, and he came on for Julian Gressel. Robert Taylor was left out. It just felt like there were a lot more players on the pitch now who don't necessarily thrive on the ball, and that's why that sort of tapered down. But I'd love to hear your thoughts and what your ideas are there.
Yeah, let me stop you because I did rewatch it today, and this is what happened. And I want to set the context by going back 2 games to when we played FC Cincinnati. And in that game, we had Christoph, we had Busquets on the back line, we had Cello Wigan and Franco Negri. And in that pregame show, we talked about how, okay, this line has to play conservatively. They have to play deep. We have to try and beat them in transition. And that's not what happened. We tried to play high up the field. We tried to play going forward. We tried to play our game. And on the road against a team with incredibly athletic, dynamic, interchanging front three, and in their house when they were in form and they were on their game, we got blown out. And one of my biggest takeaways from that was, listen, Tata, coaching staff, players, you have to set up tactics to allow your personnel to succeed. If you're leaving Sergio Busquets and Christoph on islands high up the field, you're setting your players up to fail. It's not their fault. I mean, it's their fault, but it's not their fault that they can't physically do what you're asking them to do. And in this game, with Busquets on the back line, Inter Miami played a lot more conservatively and tried to hit on the counter. The reason that Chicago Fire had more possession, and I thought it was not just the second half, I thought it was in both halves, was, I mean, it was even, and it was relatively even both ways, but we were really happy and willing to give Chicago the ball and try and win the ball in dangerous areas. And the reason it changed in the 60th plus minute, we can talk about in a second, but Inter Miami was very comfortable to let Chicago have the ball and try and win the ball high up the field because they wanted to make sure their back line could stay conservative, stay farther back, not get too high up and get themselves into bad positions. Part of that, I think, is tactical. I also think getting an early goal really helps. But also, I think Tata Martino wanted to play a little bit deeper so that Matías Rojas and Luis Suárez and Julian Gressel had room, and Jordi Alba and Robert Taylor also had room to get forward with time and space on the ball. I thought the whole strategy was, yes, to protect Busquets a little bit, but more importantly, to get Matías Rojas in dangerous positions to get the ball forward with room and space on the ball. And I thought it worked really well.
Yeah, I guess I see your point when you put it that way. I don't necessarily think we were playing in like a park the bus fashion where we were sitting back and absorbing pressure, at least in the first.
That's not what I mean.
Yeah,
that's not what I mean.
In the first 60 minutes. But yeah, you make a really good point about letting Chicago have the ball and then try and get them on the counter press, because that inevitably created a lot of chances. And I think the perfect example of that was the 49th minute chance for Suárez, because Bright won the ball high up in the middle with Matías Rojas in space. So that does tend to work when you have players like Matías Rojas and Gressel who like to operate in a lot of space. But I think towards the latter half of the second half, we sat back a little bit more than we should have and gave them a lot more ball. And maybe we weren't winning the ball as cleanly as we were in that first half. And that invited more pressure than we needed to. But yeah, that's a good point that I hadn't looked into.
And let me clarify. I don't mean that we were trying to park the bus. What I mean is that when we had the ball, we were trying to play very direct, significant verticality, play very quick. And so our back line wasn't inching forward and inching forward and inching forward and inching forward. So that when we were in possession, we weren't just high up the field and almost entirely in our opponent's final third. That when we got the ball, either we won it high at the pitch and went quickly, but even if we brought it from the back, we were trying to play with significant verticality, trying to get the ball forward quick so that our back line wasn't just, walking up and walking up and walking up and kind of getting sucked in. Instead, we tried to play quick. And if we lost the ball, because we were playing trying to play dangerous balls over the top, because we were getting the ball to Suárez and our high players, and they were trying to be tricky. Even if we lost the ball, we were okay with that because our back line was in a place that we felt comfortable with. But again, I think the biggest beneficiary of that was Matías Rojas, because all of a sudden there was space for him to operate. And we didn't see him have a ton of space in our last game on Wednesday night. In this game, he had space, and I thought he was a lot better. In the 60th minute, they brought in Chris Mueller, who is an energy spark plug in the midfield. And I thought Federico Redondo and Robert Taylor were gassed by this point. And so I think that's what ended up being the difference there, was that they brought in some fresh legs. And I think we were a little more tired than we would normally expect to be in the 60th minute. And so we were really struggling at that point to keep possession, just because our midfield was sort of out of gas.
No, I think one thing you mentioned that really stood out, and I mentioned it at the start, was how quick Inter Miami was playing when they were passing the ball. It didn't seem like they were taking too much time, and that's what I mentioned earlier as well. It didn't seem like we were taking time on the ball at all. And yeah, you're right about the fact that the verticality was very much visible in this particular game than it has been in the last game, for instance. And that was potentially one of the reasons why we had so much space. We were playing a lot of direct football. We didn't take too much time on the ball. We didn't build it out. We didn't play safe passes. It was 1, 2, 3 quick passes across the field and into the final third. And unfortunately, we couldn't finish off our chances. Otherwise, it would have looked really, really good against the Chicago Fire team. And we could have potentially had a 3-4 nothing victory over them.
One of the things that I mentioned we can talk about today, when we were talking about this last night, was Leo Campana and his potential role in this game. And listen, we saw him look kind of frustrated on Wednesday night. And so maybe mentally he needs just a refresh. And so maybe Tata saw that. But tactically speaking, I thought bringing Campana on could have made a lot of sense in the 65th minute. Ultimately, when Tata does make the subs in the 70th minute, which I thought did come 5 to 7 minutes too late, he goes for Leo Afonso instead, and he goes with the transition potential in Leo Afonso rather than trying to secure possession and get yourself out of this hole or this low block or defending for your box deep situation that Inter Miami found themselves in. And I guess my question is there a way that we can get both Campana and Luis Suárez on the field at the same time in a way that's still effective and that Tata can get behind?
Yeah, I think so. And I think especially in areas at times during the game when someone like Redondo and Gresso tire out a little bit and you want to put in more bodies in the midfield, a 4-4-2 works really well. And that should be explored a lot more, because you could see that our players, especially in the midfield, were gassing out. We were losing some of our battles. Luis Suárez wasn't having his best game at all. He was frustrated. Bringing in Campana does two really important things: allows you to press from the front and allows you to hold on to the ball. He does a lot of the defensive work as well. So bringing him on allows Luis Suárez to be a little bit less involved in the build-up, and he can then focus on just scoring in front of the goal. But yeah, if you switch to a 4-4-2, then you can either play a narrow 4-4-2, a more expansive 4-4-2. And if your midfield's suffering at that time, and if you need fresher legs in there, put in David Ruiz, put in a couple of other midfielders, freshen things up in the midfield. And that way you have more bodies there. And then you have two options high up top as well, because at that point during the game, it doesn't seem like transitions are really working for us. But then again, sometimes it happens like it did against Philadelphia, where we had Leo Afonso run through. So you need to balance it out.
It only takes one moment, but it is a philosophical question of, listen, we're back. We have our ears against our goal. Do we want to push to try and just get the goal that'll put it away? Or should we try and change the way that the game is functioning right now? And I thought that the choice to bring on Afonso instead of Campana was a decision by Tata to say, no, there's going to be space in behind. Let's try and get that third goal or second goal, depending on the time of the game, and just put it away. One of the things I talked about on the Heartbeat this morning is that Inter Miami's gotten really good at putting games away late when they have a 1-goal lead. And we've seen it a lot recently with all these 2-1 games that we've had. But even going back to sort of that Vancouver game where we had a 2-0 lead and then Aviles had a stupid penalty and they got back into it and then we had to suffer for 25 minutes. Inter Miami's gotten very good at suffering late in games in order to pull out victories. Not something Inter Miami was great at last year. Not something that Inter Miami's been traditionally good at. And I think Tata Martino's built confidence in his team's ability to do that, which I think gives him the freedom to choose. Actually, let's go with Afonso and try and nick this goal and just kind of walk away, even though we're kind of going against the run of play right now. Positive, right?
Yeah, I think champion teams, what they do is they grind results out. They convert those draws into wins and those losses into draws, and you eke out results when you're not expected to. It's a mentality builder, right? It really helps elevate the mentality of the entire team, because now you can bank on your previous experiences of being in difficult situations to be like, okay, we've been in this situation before. We can deal with it. Yes, they scored. There's still 20 minutes left on the clock. We scored late goals. We won in the 96th minute. We can do it again. We've done it before. So having that experience really helps build that mental strength of this squad. And we have a lot of young players. People forget how some of these players are fairly young, coming from academy, and having then champion players surround them like Sergio Busquets, Jordi Alba. It gives you the confidence of, okay, they're going to help us dig out of a hole like Jordi Alba did yesterday, but we have to contribute as well. And I think there's just a really good team camaraderie building up where they're like, okay, we can now sit together in the trenches and everyone in this team can contribute to get a win. And we don't just have to rely on the beauty of Lionel Messi or the passing skills of Busquets. Everyone has a role to play on this team. And now we're slowly and steadily starting to get that. And that is actually going to be felt during the playoffs when we have to get into those difficult situations, because the playoffs are not going to be easy by any means. And in case we have to play away from home, it's going to be so important to have that mentality in there.
I thought we decided we were just going to win every game until December.
Yeah.
So,
We are.
Hopefully there's a 7-2 and a 5-1 in there at some point. No, but I think you make an excellent point. And this was the last kind of talking point I wanted to bring up, was that it felt yesterday like we had winners on the field. And even though it was David Ruiz and Noah Allen and Ian Frey and Drake Callender, like a lot of the same guys we had last year that were a part of a lot of losing. And even when they were on the field at the end of last year, when we had Messi and stuff, like it didn't feel like there was the same confidence or composure or, oh, we got this, don't worry, like relaxation as there is now. I felt something different in the team yesterday, or at least I noticed it for the first time, where it felt like this is a team of winners. And I do think that's a mentality, and definitely credit Messi and Busquets and Suárez and Tata and all of them for helping instill that. But it's there now and it exists throughout the team. And I'm really excited that all of our young players that are going to be here for the next 5 years, guys like Noah Allen and David Ruiz and Yannick Bright, have absorbed that. And it feels like they've lived into that mantra. Anything else about this game before we get into awards? Anything else on your mind? Any comments in the chat that catch your eye? Campana.
I'm just glad that this wasn't
That's sad.
I'm just glad this wasn't another NYCFC game where Luis Suarez was frustrated and it actually cost us 2 points. I'm glad we were able to dig out a result. But yeah, with this Campana thing, I'm not sure how it's going to play out. It seems like there's a lot of criticism of him. I like him as a player. I think he should stay on, but we'll see what happens.
Hannah Monterrey says that the probability of retaining Leagues Cup, what do you think it is, considering the tough group Miami is playing in? We'll get to awards in a second. We're going to do a whole segment in our midweek episode about the Leagues Cup, doing a little preview, what our thoughts are, what teams at, etc. But initial top line thoughts, are we going back to back with this, or are you okay if we just kind of relax?
No, never relaxing. I'll be okay if we don't win this. I won't be okay if we don't win this. I want us to win this. I want us to give it our all. The more trophies, the better. But it's going to be very difficult. It's going to be very, very difficult, and sometimes things can happen where it you know, doesn't play out in our favor. Refereeing decisions might go against us. We're in a really difficult group, but I think we're the favorites, definitely. And if we put up our best performance, there's no reason why we can't go back to back. I will always back my team no matter what. So let's say we are going to retain that League Cup final and a Monterrey.
Just going back to my last comment, this is a team of winners now. So I think they're gonna go for it every game, right? Last one. Cynical Tube living up to his name, saying Taylor's getting a contract extension. We all know what that means. I'm not going to say anything further, and if you know, you know. Let's get into awards. On this show, we give out 6 awards, a man of the match, a heron that flew north, and 2 individual awards each because I went first on Wednesday night or Thursday night. It is your turn to go first. Saur, in this game, who was Miami's man of the match?
Might come across a little bit controversial, and you might have different thoughts on it, but I'm going to give this one to Yannick Bright. I thought he was really good this entire game. 90 minutes, I would say across the course of 90 minutes, he was the best player on the pitch. And to the style that we played and the one that you described so well, he was very key for us to actually get the 3 points. He was absolutely... What's the word? I'm trying to look for an adjective. Chat, give me an adjective that I can use for Yannick Bright, because he was monumental. He was rock solid. He was stout, impressive. Just that massive big wall in the middle. He had 10 ground duels, of which he won 6. He lost possession only 7 times, and 7 times is not that much considering how much this Inter Miami team loses possession. He had 4 clearances, 2 blocked shots, 3 interceptions, and 4 tackles. That is really good numbers. And he helped us transition and create those spaces in between and create those turnovers. Every single time, at least in the first 50 minutes, when Chicago got the ball in the midfield, they could not get past Yannick Bright. And it was so good to watch. Man of the match deserving, man.
I'm disappointed you gave it to him because I had a fun award that I was going to give to him, but I'm going to have to save it probably just for the next game when I can give it to him. He's a monster, dude. He's a monster, and we've been on his bandwagon since the preseason, and we were on this before Tata was. We were on this before anyone, and so pat on the back to us because he's a stud. He's locked into the midfield. We are moving Busquets out of position to accommodate Yannick Bright. We are, again, let me repeat that. We are moving Sergio Busquets, one of the best 6s in the history of this sport, out of position in order to accommodate a guy who played college soccer like 7 months ago. This is a 22-year-old that started 7 professional games. He started 7 games. He's played 14, but he started 7. His first start of the season, I believe, came against Vancouver. His record in games when he starts is 6 wins, 1 loss. We are so much better defensively when he's in the midfield. He's a monster. He's always in the right position. He is getting better with the ball. He's getting in better positions offensively. He is starting to create offense for the first time. I compared him to Darlington Nagbe when, earlier in the season, before he was even really playing. I was like, this is a young Darlington Nagbe. He's Darlington Nagbe now. He's not even a young Darlington Nagbe. He is that good. And he started 7 professional games. For the first time yesterday, I thought to myself, we might lose this guy to Europe. Like, I've never thought of Yannick Bright as a guy who's going to move on to Europe or has like that sort of potential, like I do with Diego Gomez and Kramaski and some of our other young players. But for the first time, I'm like, 6s are hard to come by, and this guy has it. Honestly, his future is it's so bright, and no pun intended, but I want him to be a heron for the next 10 years. Like, I want him to be the first legend of this club because he will be that if he stays here long enough. Sorry, rant over.
I promise, guys, we're not. I promise, guys, we are not paid by Yannick Bright's agency to drive the agenda up. At least twice in every podcast, you hear us pat ourselves on the back for getting on the Yannick Bright bandwagon this early. I think this is the first time that Scotty has vocalized how heavily he rates Yannick Bright by comparing him to someone like Darlington Nagbe. But I'm not going to add to that. All I'm going to say is just wait and watch, because the ceiling for this player is the sky. He can be so good in the next couple of years. Anyways, you should now talk about who the heron that flew north is before we move on to this comment in the chat that we've just seen, because I'm going to look into it.
Okay, I actually was so busy focused on coming up with names of awards that I forgot to look for a heron that flew north. For those that don't know, as I filibuster and try and figure this out, the heron that flew north is our award for the player that was doing the wrong thing. Florida herons, they don't fly north for the winter. So if you see one flying north, you're seeing a heron do the wrong thing. And there was a lot of really good performances last night. And so I feel bad giving this out to anyone. This is tough.
You dare not give it to Cello.
I'm going to give it to, I feel bad doing it. I'm going to give it to Julian Gressel. I feel awful doing this. Not because he was bad, because he wasn't bad, but his, he's a guy that gets an assist every single game now. And so if you don't get an assist, you're doing the wrong thing by your standards. So Julian Gressel, heron that flew north, I apologize. You were fine. You could have definitely gotten that assist if Tata hadn't taken you out early, but he did and you didn't. So heron that flew north.
Yeah, harsh, very harsh, but that's exactly who I had in mind as well. I just couldn't pick anybody else. I did a process of elimination. Potentially could have been Cello Wiegand for missing a couple of sitters. But yeah, I think Julian Gressel has set himself such a high standard now that we are actually feeling sorry about giving him the heron that flew north award. It was very difficult to do, but it is what it is. He could have had a couple of assists. He had that one semi-Olympico that he tried off a corner that hit the crossbar. If that had gone in, that would have been great. He had a couple of other opportunities. If he converted, he could have had an assist. But overall, I thought he sort of tapered out towards the second half. And it is what it is. Sometimes that happens. But I think next game, he's going to get another assist and we should be good to go.
Yeah, I think if I was being extra harsh, I could have given it to Noah Allen because he did have a turnover or two late. But ultimately, that felt harsh because he was only on for 10 minutes. And, we're talking about people doing the wrong thing. And that's Gressel not getting a goal contribution. So that feels right. You took my favorite award for this one. So as we move to your first individual award, I ask you not to take my second best award. What is your first individual award?
Okay, I won't take your second best award. I'm going to go with the one that I think is not one you'd be going for. I'm going to give the 7 almonds a day award to somebody, and you're going to tell me who that somebody is.
7 almonds, like the nut?
Yep.
Okay. 7 almonds a day keeps the doctor away.
That's apples.
The doctor's on his team. It's actually 1 apple a day, 7 almonds. Keep up, man. Keep up.
Okay. Yeah, my bad. Hey, it's
7
my
almonds
award.
a day.
Don't tell me what it means.
7 almonds a day is going to Robert Taylor because he gets his 7 opportunities a game and he makes you feel better. I don't know. Who's it going to?
Okay, so it's kind of hard to explain unless you're from that cultural background, right? I'm Indian, in case nobody can tell. And in India, we have this thing where we think eating 7 almonds a day is going to improve your memory, right? So every morning, Indians eat 7 almonds with their breakfast. Now, somebody ate 7 almonds in the morning before he went to play this game. And that player is Matías Rojas because he remembered how good he was for this team in the first 5 games. And it felt like he had sort of forgotten what his role in this team was and how good he can be. And it just feels like he slowly and steadily is starting to come back into rhythm. I thought he needed a couple of games to adjust to the players around him to build certain chemistry. But in this game, we set up the tactics to really suit him, and he performed really well. Had obviously the goal, which he took fantastically, created a couple of opportunities. He linked up really well with Redondo. And overall, I thought he had a good performance and worthy of an award. So this 7 almonds a day award goes to Matías Rojas for remembering that he can actually score with his left foot.
Yeah, I think getting the goals probably helps his confidence. I think, as I mentioned earlier, the way we set up, I think, is ideal for Matías Rojas. He wants to get the ball with space in front of him so that he can be creative and he can combine with other players and that he can have players in front of him. We saw him have a really nice pass to Luis Suárez that could have been an assist for him. We saw him combine with Federico Redondo and Suárez a couple times right around the edge of the penalty box. And that was one of those times, or it was a couple of those times in the first half that you felt should have led to a clear-cut chance. Then we just kind of muffed it right at the end. But good game from Matías Rojas, a bounce-back game after sort of an invisible performance, and hopefully he can carry this going forward. I'm a little worried that he just likes wearing blue, and he's not going to perform the same in pink. But yeah, really good performance, and 7 almonds a day. A great award because I learned something new, and I always love to do that. So.
Hey, we've always said that the Drive Pink Dialogue is not a sports podcast, it's an educational podcast. And that means education for you and me as well, as the audience and listeners. So here you go.
Yes, the first education was how good Yannick Bright is, and the second is about Indian culture. My first award is the Mossy Pond Award.
The Mossy Pond Award. Mm-hmm. Huh. Of course, this has to go to Jordi Alba, right?
What makes you guess Jordi Alba?
When he decided to step up, the pond around him was quite mossy because everyone was stinking the place up. So he decided that I'm going to actually clean up some of the mess that we're creating for ourselves and get that goal and get us back ahead and get us this victory. So he created a mossy pond into a nice, shiny crystal lake. And that's why this award goes to Jordi Alba.
I want you to put yourself in, a little bit of a nature scene in your head. And there's a pond, and there's mossy, and it's serene, it's beautiful, it's
Since when is a mossy pond serene?
It's
disgusting.
It's nature. You're not in the pond, dude. It's just in front of you, okay? And it's nature, and the sun is shining through the trees, and it's serene, it's peaceful, it's beautiful nature, it's a beautiful moment. But the water's not clear. And that's how I felt about Luis Suárez's game. It may have been serene and beautiful and a picturesque moment, but I'm not exactly clear if he had a good game or not. I thought he was really good in the last 10, 15 minutes, which I think may have clouded people's judgments about his overall performance. He had a few really nice moments in the last 15 minutes, and so he left a positive taste in people's mouth. But throughout the game, and I was rewatching, there was so many moments where he just dribbled into someone, but then he was creating offense going the other way, and then he was getting into dangerous positions, and he was setting up his teammates, but then also we weren't very clinical inside the 18-yard box.
And then shouting at other goalkeepers for making a save.
Yes, well, this award is unrelated to that. But ultimately, I don't know whose fault it was that we weren't particularly clinical in the 18-yard box, but I think maybe the striker has a little bit of responsibility for that. He did have some turnovers, but he was trying to do some things. He was creative. He had a dynamism to his attack, but he also stopped some plays. He wasn't quite quick enough on a few plays. He left a few passes short that could have been really good opportunities. I'm unclear if he had a really good game or if he was just okay. So he gets the Mossy Pond Award because it's not clear, but it may have been picturesque. I'm undecided.
By the way, I will never get in a mossy pond. That's absolutely disgusting. I hate ponds that are
With you there.
That being said, Suárez, I thought he was very sharp, great movement, got into some really good positions, but always seemed a step back. Could have been a result of him actually not playing that many games and going the full 90 minutes in his second game back. But I get your point. That's a really good award. It was a little bit confusing to see him, to judge him in this game, because giving him the heron that flew north would have been really harsh, because it did seem like he was actually doing a lot of good stuff on the pitch, getting into good positions, getting in front of goal. Just didn't wear his scoring boots yesterday and could have cost the team, but thankfully it didn't. So as long as it doesn't affect the team, it's fine.
He also had at least two opportunities. And again, he was really good in the last 15 minutes. So I think that sort of is like a last image of his performance. And so it clouds his overall performance. But I
thought he was really good at the start of the game as well.
Well, again, if you go back and rewatch, he had 2 or 3 opportunities where he had to make the right pass and it would have been a goal, an easy tap in. And he just left it short, or he put it too low or whatever. But then again, later on in the game, he had a beautiful little tap over to Matías Rojas. Like, it was good and bad. So it's unclear to me how his game was, but ultimately the advanced analytics liked him and we won the game. So I'm not going to complain too much.
Right. Is your big award now done so that I can not be afraid of taking away that award?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna give this next award. You know what? I'm gonna change it up. I'm gonna give the Symbiote Award to a player.
The Symbiote. I don't know what that means.
Have you seen Spider-Man?
I've seen Spider-Man. Oh, okay. Is that like the
there
black?
You go.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So that takes you over, and you get a black uniform, and you become angrier or sadder or more emo. This is Jordi Alba.
No. What's your reason for giving it to Jordi Alba? Because he became angrier and sadder and then scored a goal.
Because we went down a goal. I'm sorry, we didn't go down. They equalized, and he was like, "I'm putting on my superhero uniform," and he became the symbiote. I don't know.
Okay, that's a really good shout, but I'm actually going to give it to Toto Avilés. I took your award, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
Go ahead. I'm so sorry, mate. I tried my best. I actually changed it up. I'm so sorry. But
so what is the symbiote award that you're giving out? That's way lamer than what I would have given out.
This is an award because I think Avilés thrives perfectly when he is next to the perfect partner. Just like the symbiote in Spider-Man needs the perfect host to be good, Avilés needs the perfect partner to be good. Christoph was not the right host for him. But next to Freire, he was really good. And next to Busquets, he has been playing really, really well. So just wanted to point out that he had a very understated game this time around. And one of the reasons I think he played that well is having someone like Sergio Busquets next to him, who's good in the ball, who can get out of pressure position. So then Avilés can now focus on defending and being focused on his man. And I just think he thrives when he's paired up with the next right partner. And I think once David Martinez comes in, I hope he's the right partner to bring out the symbiote in Toto Avilés.
I was going to give out the Blue 2 Redemption Award because I was thinking of Redemption and I was thinking Red Dead Redemption, but then we wore a blue kit. So Blue 2 Redemption, I don't know. It wasn't perfect. He redeemed himself after I think he's come under a little criticism over the last couple games. He's been suspended for 2 of the last 5 games. He was injured for one of them. And so he hasn't played a ton. And when he has, he's not been incredible. And it did feel like for almost the entire first year we had him, he got better month after month. And the last month, I thought he came under a little bit of criticism and he redeemed himself. He was really good in this game. He was in defensive transition, I think was where we would, it would go under the radar a little bit. I thought he was excellent. The Blue Chew Redemption is definitely better. Good award. I think he was deserving. He had that beautiful hockey assist to Robert Taylor to get that first goal. Beautiful, beautiful diagonal. And yeah, I agree, man. Busquets next to him. I think this is the partnership we're going to go with on Saturday night against a Puebla team that is going to be a step up in competition. And I feel confident in them right now. So, and I think back to the last time we played a Mexican team at home at Chase Stadium, we played Monterrey. And Aviles had an excellent game that day. He got a goal early, but he was also really good defensively. So I think he's going to come into this game with a lot of confidence. I really, really love that. Okay, I have to think of an award because you took all my good ones.
Hey, I have one for you if you want me to send one.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm giving the Jazzercise Award, the Jazzercise Instructor Award, because I can't think of anything else. Who do you think gets the Jazzercise Instructor Award? This should be an easy one.
Is this because of the 80s retro theme? And
it is because of the 80s retro theme.
Okay, so I know this just because I saw your tweets, but I like this award, and this award obviously has to go to Jordi Alba. And also, this podcast wouldn't be complete without talking about him. So, tell me why Jordi Alba is the Jazzercise Award.
He took over the game in the last 20 minutes. I thought you were going to give him the Man of the Match award, and so I had a really fun award for Yannick Bright, saving that for another time. He took over the game, and he said, I got this. He was our best player in the last 20 minutes, and he called game. He said, we're tied now? No. I got this. And we won the game because Jordi Alba took over.
I have an even better explanation for you. Have you ever done any of these Jazzercise exercises or these videos that you, like the 80s retro videos where you wear your leotards and your long socks and you just go to these Jazzercise exercises? I haven't either, but I've seen enough pop culture to know what I'm going to talk about.
Hold on.
You know how you get tired?
He also runs like he does Jazzercise to stay in physical fitness. Okay,
very
go
true,
ahead.
Very true. But when you're following a Jazzercise video, it's the last 10-15 minutes that get really tiring, right? But then you have someone like Jane Fonda who's shouting at you to do better, to get to the 60 minutes and to pump yourself up. So the last 10 minutes, you want to give your all despite the fact that you're absolutely dying and you just want to quit. And that is why Jordi Alba is that Jazzercise coach who told the team, no. We've still got time and we're going to finish this with all our energy and all our, impetus, and we're going to get that goal. And he was the Jazzercise coach that drove everyone around him high up that hill, and we got back that energy and we got back that goal, and that's why we won. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is rap.
That was beautiful. Couldn't have said it better myself. I wish I had thought of that. So kudos to you. Anyone else you want to talk about? Drake Callender had some nice saves. Cello
could have done
Weekend,
better on a couple of them.
He could have done better. We talked about everyone in the post-game reaction show, so maybe we don't have to spend too much time. Cello, again, was solid to good, and yet Ian Frey came on, was still better. Busquets as a center back.
Yeah, I get it. Yes, he was better.
Busquets as a center back, I'm comfortable with him. I'm really glad Tata didn't throw away that experiment because of one bad game at Cincinnati.
Do you think we do that in the Leagues Cup as well? I know you mentioned it, but do you think we're going to do that in the Leagues Cup?
I think that's going to be our starting lineup. I think we're going to have the same starting lineup Saturday night against Puebla. I don't think we're going to have David Martinez by that point because he has to get a work permit and everything. But I think once David Martinez comes in, we're going to get him. But until then, I think Busquets is going to be in the back line with Aviles as his partner, and maybe he won't be if Aviles isn't available for some reason. Like if you feel like you have to start Christoph instead of Aviles because Aviles is suspended or whatever, then you might want to partner him with Noah Allen or something. I don't know, but I think we're going to get Busquets and Aviles for this next game. Federico Redondo, I thought about giving him an award. I thought, it wasn't as good as Wednesday, and I also thought he gassed out kind of early in this game. But in the first half,
He
I thought
does
he was
tend to
really
gas
good.
out a lot, yeah.
Sometimes. But in the first half, I thought he was really good.
Yep.
Robert Taylor had an excellent assistant. By the way, on the rewatch, I thought Taylor was pretty good for the entire first half. And then Ian Frey was great. So what else is there to say?
All good, man. And just before we wrap up, the news has come through that Rafa Varane has signed for Como officially. So that is one signing that we'll not be making this season.
Unfortunate, but I think we knew that was going to happen for quite some time. Guys, we will be back on Wednesday for our midweek episode. We'll talk about the Leagues Cup. We'll recap this 7-game stretch. We'll talk about any transfer news that happens, and we'll go from there. And then we'll be back for the pregame show. Leagues Cup is coming up, but it has been incredibly fun over the last couple of weeks, and you guys are a big part of that. So thank you so much for being here. As always, my name is Scotty. I'm here with my co-host Saur, and we will see you guys next time. Have a wonderful night.